Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another Gunpla review, and today I'm taking a look at this right here, the Master Grade Gundam X Impulse. This, believe it or not, is a Master Grade from Gundam Build Divers. The Gundam Build Divers in particular being Genius headline, and I'm not gonna lie, I have absolutely no clue what that is, but the designs from this particular series are by Naoki, which means I am absolutely enamored with them. So far from this, we've had the Gundam Lindworm, which is a very Zeta-derived looked version of the BUYEE, but now what we've got today is this. This is a version, of course, of the Impulse Gundam, but if you actually take a version of the Impulse and throw it down beside this, you can see that this has changed quite a bit. A lot actually, but I will mention this is not what this looks like out of box. It does have a little bit of extra effort, which I'll talk about very soon, and if you're looking for an awesome model kit just like this one right here that comes in a monochromatic box, which means it's premium Bandai, I got mine through BUYEE, and you can too. Anyway, let's get right into this. So now jumping into the build first, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit briefly. First off, this is a kit that is heavily based on 2008's Master Grade Impulse Gundam. Now, when I started, or should I say restarted, into Gunpla in 2011, the Master Grade Impulse was almost like a cult hit, or even a widespread Gunpla hit. People loved that Master Grade, and funnily enough, I just always missed out on it, so the only Impulse Gundams I have are premium Bandai. I keep meaning to buy the Sword Impulse because I love that design, but I've not gotten around to it yet. So what's on the core inside of this kit, and funnily enough, a lot of the armor around the back, is the 2008 Impulse Gundam. So it builds up just like that, with a very heavy duty, very detailed ABS inner frame, and the armor builds onto it. Now there's one thing I will very much stress with this particular kit, and although it is absolutely mesmerizingly beautiful, out of box this is one of the plainest looking kits around. All of the detail on this is, well, how to say, printed into it. It's all the panel lines, so without any panel lining whatsoever, this is going to be a very plain looking kit, especially for a Master Grade. So before I actually threw any extra effort into it, I decided to give this a little bit of a spin so you can see what this looks like out of box using just the included stickers. The included stickers are the usual ones from the eyes and the head cameras. We do have clear parts for behind them if you want to do your own kind of light piping or paint these parts in clear, you can do that. But I just went with the stickers because it's simple and they reflect the light nicely. When it comes to the brand new parts for this kit, I love Naoki's designs. They may just be my favorite Gundam designs of all. The kind of geometric shapes, we've got a lot of almost squared off parts, a lot of different surface details, greebles, etc. that just make it look really detailed but not too overcrowded. These definitely need a little bit of effort to actually bring them out. They are there, but almost invisible out of box build. So when it does come to what I actually did with this kit, first off I panel lined this using the Flow type panel liner markers. I used a mix of black and grey. I'd recommend using grey mainly because if you do all of this in black, it's going to look like a horrible contrast, black on white. You may like that, but I find it gets a little bit overcrowded. The grey is a little bit more subtle and works nicely. After that then I used pretty much the vast majority of the included water slide decals. So once again, this is a premium Bandai kit that comes with some very nice water slide decals. Some of the designs are very nice. Finally then, to finish it off, I hit it with a couple of coats of Mr. Hobby's flat matte top coat, and that's how I got it from this all the way to what we're about to see right now. So jumping right on into the aesthetics, and just to stress what I mentioned already, this is what this kit looks like with an extra bit of effort because a lot of the detail in its straight build is wasted, definitely. So from here on out, I'm talking about this with a little bit of work. But yeah, what can I say? This thing blows my mind. The minute I saw the actual pre-release pictures of this, I was absolutely in love. Just like with the Gundam Lindworm, this has a lot of nice surface detail that you definitely need to harness. This is what it looks like in that full 360 spin without that backpack, just so you can see what is going on here. And I'll talk about the backpacks and its backpack compatibility a little bit later on in the accessories. So a lot of what would make up a lot of Naoki's signature style is all over this. The extra arm armor that almost looks like some kind of big gauntlets on the arms, the very squared off shoulders with those pointy parts that almost remind me a little bit of Gundam Stormbringer, and the same almost goes for the head as well. You would almost not recognize the Impulse Gundam here at all. This is almost going towards the Strike Gundam in a way, like something that bridges the gap between the Strike and the Impulse. This is so nice. Zooming on in, we've got a whole bunch of surface detail all over the place. Round back, this is all the same as what we would have seen on the original variants of the Impulse, but around front, all of this armor is new. The torso on here looks stupendous. I am absolutely loving the color scheme on here. The pairing of that grey with the orange on the chest just looks so good. We've got multiple shades of grey in here. That is the light grey, a little bit of a darker grey too. The usual Gundam yellow is oranged out. And we've got a nice rich shade of red, which we've seen on other variants of the Impulse. So we'll mention there are a couple of negative aspects which I feel are kind of held onto from the Master Grade Impulse Gundam, and they're not exactly what you'd think. The actual structure of this, the articulation and everything is really good. I'll also mention it right now because I'll probably forget it later on, but the connection point from the torso to the legs has actually been changed. This would have been a polycap before, but it's been replaced with a plastic part. This feels good and strong compared to what we would have seen before. But as for the negative aspect that has kind of been held onto from the kits from beforehand, that would be there is no detail or color separation underneath the front and rear skirtings. Usually in more modern kits you'd get a grey layer under here to make it look a little bit more mechanical and not just a flat piece of plastic. I tried to combat this by panel lining a lot inside of this, but what I really wanted to do, just didn't have the time, was just throw this down and spray the whole inside of it in a nice grey matching the inner frame, and that is what I would recommend doing. Now there is one aspect, I'm not sure, I actually want you guys to comment this down there in the comments. Do you prefer this or not? Because I greatly prefer this. When it came to the legs on the original version of the Impulse, we had these absolutely ridiculous feet. Like the way the legs kind of like went in at the shin area, then the feet came out an absolute mile, was some of the weirdest looking, almost guy wearing flippers feet I've ever seen on a Gundam kit. This has been kicked entirely. We've got those very typical Naoki style blocky feet, which I love and adore, and I feel like this is a massive upgrade. What do you think? You like the banana feet, or do you like these new ones? Anyway, let's get into some comparisons. First up, there it is beside one of the variants of the Impulse Gundam, Impulse Gundam Blanche, Strike Remaster, Gundam Stormbringer, and the Reborn 100, Gundam Lindworm. So now jumping into the accessories, and as well as the backpack, we've got the standard Gundam loadout of sword, board, and beam rifle. On top of that, we also have a ton of adapters, fingers, etc. that I didn't bother laying out because it would have taken forever. We've got landing gears, tons of stuff. Anyway, let's check it out. So first up when it comes to the accessories is the hands we have in here, and this is super good news. Now, what we've got here is the Seed style swappable fingers that we've been seeing since the Strike Remaster and the Blitz and all of those guys. Well, when we take a look at an actual Impulse's hands, what we get is these big old style ones. These to me are the worst Gundam hands around. They've got a tab in the middle of the hand that is unreliable, 3 fingers that move together on weird little ball joints, and an index finger that moves separately. They don't hold on to things well, they don't even look good, and from a distance they're even big, blocky, and not that nice to look at. The alternatives here, which are the Seed style hands, are so much better, and that of course does mean that with this kit now you can hold on to pretty much any other Gundam Seed Master Grade weapon. Anything that would have came out from the Strike 2.0, Eclipse, Gundam Remaster, Buster, Duel, etc. So now taking a look at the X Impulse pack. This is extremely nice, mainly because it is a variant of the standard Impulse pack. So it has all the various bending apparatus going on here, aka wings. Round bottom, it's pretty much identical. These dropping rotating parts right here, exactly like we would have seen before. The only thing that is new is this brand new spoiler kind of thingamajig going on here. And by spoiler type thingamajig, I mean a spoiler. But yeah, pretty much everything else here is a color variant of what this would have looked like. And we've got this nice new segment here, which has this set of engines, these wings up here, that make this extremely nice. You've got a part right here for attaching on both those beam sabers. With a kit like this that's full of adapters and all sorts of bits, there's a whole lot of options in here. Option the first is to grab the silhouette flyer right here. This does exactly what it's always done since back in 2008. So you've got an extending gimmick in the underside of this silhouette flyer that can attach into the pack like so, and I guess this is now the X Impulse silhouette. On the bottom of this, we've got an option for both landing gears and an action-based adapter. The action-based adapter just slots in as it usually would, angles backwards ever so slightly, and this works with any action base of your choice. So what I'm using right here is Good Smile Company's simple stand combined with some adapters from one of Bandai's Action Base 4s or 5s. That is what it looks like up in the air flying, and this looks amazing. I love this pack and that simple color scheme. Also included in here for use with this is a set of landing gears. They just slot on into the bottom just like so for your whatever miscellaneous landing and taking off scenes, or for just displaying this parked with the flyer round back, which actually would look really cool in the display if you actually had all the impulse packs attached to silhouette flyers. That would look pretty cool. So to finally get this pack where we want it, and that is up on the back of the X Impulse, all you have to do is remove the silhouette flyer like so, and then it connects into the back of the X Impulse. However, first, I almost forgot the fact that this kit does have a transformation, which I'm going to briefly, well, mention. In order to get this transformed, you separate the bottom unit from the upper unit. In here we do have a transforming core splendor, which even to this day really does impress me. This folds out ever so nicely, the wings fold out too. We do have some landing gears we're using with this exactly like with the silhouette flyer, but I'm gonna brush over that today. If you want to see more about that, you can check out my Blast Impulse review. But at this point I was going to say the exact same thing about the transformation on this, that it's exactly the same as every other previous master grade Impulse that would have came out before. But when I actually went to check out that review, all I did was zoom the camera in and out and make sound effects about it. So this time I'm actually going to do it properly. Pew, pew, pew. No, I'm not going to. I hate the transformation on this thing. Moving along. But anyway, as for actually attaching on that pack, it attaches on the usual silhouette pack sort of way, which is these two little segments out to the side. Anything with those two holes will attach onto this kit. It just attaches on like so, looks good, but we definitely need to get this up on an action base now. So I'm just going to use a standard action base with this, but I will mention the action base adapter in here is quite unique. First off, this kit's action base hole is rammed shut with this weird kind of clog-a-majigger. This is really hard to get out. I usually use a nipper or something to kind of leverage it out. When you get it out, it's a funny shape, and then we've got this adapter segment here. This is actually kind of smart because you can actually stick the little bit you just took out into it for safekeeping, and then that just attaches into your action base like so. The X Impulse attaches onto that, and it holds up pretty good. However, you know, if you do use an action base 4, or is this a 5? I think it's a 4. It's going to wiggle, and wiggle a lot. So now jumping into the weapons, and the first weapons we have in here is a fairly standard set of beam sabers. So these are the usual kind of sabers with the pink beams, nothing unusual here. When we actually check these out a little bit more, the handles on these particular sabers aren't the Force Impulse sabers, which I will mention a little bit more when I talk about the rifle. Attaching these is, of course, different because the hands are different to the Force Impulse. These attach tab inside of the fingers, just like so, attach on the fingers, and these hold on absolutely perfectly. When they're not in use, pop out the beams, and they can be stored on these articulated parts round on the X Impulse silhouette pack. So the next weapon in here is the beam rifle, and this is where I mention those beam saber handles once again. This is one of the coolest use of leftover parts I've ever seen. Actually, this kit really does adapt the original Force Impulse parts into the design so absolutely flawlessly perfectly. That barrel you're seeing in the end there, that white barrel, that is one of the Force Silhouette's beam sabers. During the build, you actually build up two halves of the gray segment, and you pop that in between them. So it's using a beam saber. You can stick the beam effect into it if you want to, but I just think that makes an awesome barrel. That was so nicely designed. About the actual beam rifle, this is called the Adler's Vi. We've got some moving parts on the actual body. That is, this little sight segment can move ever so slightly up and down. The front segment, which to me looks like a cute little face with its tongue out. This is the alternative handle. The handle can swing up and down, and we've got a little bit of a back and forward motion to this, which I'm not sure what it's for, if it's just for aligning the hand or not, but to me, that looks like a cool pump action. So as for attaching this onto the Gundam, it's the usual routine. This pops into some trigger fingers. I was actually going to put it into the left hand, just for the sake of having this look a little different than usual, because most Gundams hold their weapon in the right hand, until I realized this sight is actually on the inside left, so I stuck with the right. When this is not in use, we do have a little tab round back, which can be attached into the back of the butt flap for storage, just like so. So now moving on to the shield, and this is the exact same shield we would have seen with all the other impulses before. So pretty much the Force Impulses shield. This is just a color variant and does everything we would have seen before, including the opening gimmick. Now around back there is one difference, and that is the handle has been redone to actually work with the new Seed style hands with the swappable fingers. Anyway, you can attach this on either or side, but I will mention that the handle slot here is staggered a little bit off to the side, so this is technically for a left arm attachment. And speaking of the attachment, I'm going to attach this on a bit of an unusual way so you can see what's going on here. First up, there's the adapter part attached, and as you can see, this attaches into the side surface of the arm like so. This actually means we do have a lot of nice movement to this shield, so that does mean when you actually attach the shield on, you can like lengthen it out far past the arm, bring it up a little bit closer to the arm for protecting the body like so, or winding it round back like this to keep it out of the way entirely. This is a very nice shield. We also have a pair of Gundam switchblades in here that actually switch out like so. These can be stored in the side skirts, but I want to move on to something a little bit more fun. And that is this right here, which is a striker pack adapter. So I'm not going to do the full backpack fashion show for this, sadly, but I will try a couple out really quickly. So let's try out some silhouette packs first. So it turns out I actually have the one silhouette pack only, which is the Blast Silhouette. So that's an absolute sin, so I really need to get some shopping done and grab up the other two. This attaches on just like the standard pack on this particular kit does, fits perfectly, and that right there is what it looks like. There's a lot of green and a lot of red on top of the white and navy blue, so whether or not this actually suits or works with this kit is up to yourself, but at the end of the day, you can always paint it to match. So now it's time to try out some striker packs. We do have a striker pack adapter for using with this. This does replace the core splendor inside of the body, so you have to pop this in half, attach this onto the back of the upper body, attach the legs back on, and you're ready to go. I'm going to start right off with the OG of the striker packs, which is the Strike Gundam itself. And honestly, after firing this on, which attaches on absolutely perfectly and securely, I am blown away by how good this looks. It suits the kit so well, almost so well that I want a second one of these just to actually put this striker pack on. I mean, I am floored by how good this looks. There's a lot of design elements of this particular kit that really does echo the original Strike Gundam. So this almost looks like a Strike variant as opposed to a Force Impulse variant. I'm impressed. By the way, I was actually going to use this pack right here, which is almost identical to the Ale Striker pack, except it's in a white and grey instead, which I thought would suit this kit a lot, but after seeing the regular Striker pack, I'm not going to bother with it, mainly because the less I have to interact with this particular Master Grade, the better. Moving on to the next one. So the last pack I'm going to be trying is the one that came with this one right here, which is the Impulse Blanche. Pretty much this is a variant of the Destiny's backpack with a little bit of different stuff going on, but the adapter part for this, or the attachment point, is the standard Striker pack attachment. So attaching this on works absolutely flawlessly, and this looks so good. This looks crazy good. It's just as angelic as the Impulse Blanche looks, but with the stark contrast of all the almost geometric and squared off shapes that are almost harsh to the eye that we have on the X Impulse. This just looks ridiculously cool. I'm loving this. This looks great. So finally now into the articulation, and sadly this isn't this kit's strongest aspect. When I actually throw this into the usual pose that I put these kits into, you'll see that this is having a lot of issues. It's limited in a lot of ways. That is because internally, this is 100% the exact same impulse we've been seeing since 2008. So there is a lot of older tech in here. It's good and solid except for the shoulders that can be a little bit janky at times if they're not pushed all the way in. But we've got massive limitations at the torso where it cannot ab crunch whatsoever. The ankles don't really move around too much either, so ground poses don't really pull off too well with this because you can't plant the feet on the ground. All in all, it does struggle with the vast majority of any kind of over-the-top poses, but you will definitely get all of your basics. So yeah, when it comes to the verdict of this kit, I gave the Blast Impulse Silver tier, and I assume this is almost the same, and you know, it's hard for me to actually rank this, because out of box this is quite plain. I'm only looking at it now with a whole bunch of extra effort put in, so essentially this should be Silver tier 2, but there's some kind of magic about this design that just makes it that much nicer to me, making it gold. So basically, to summarize it again, aesthetically this thing is phenomenal looking. It will need a lot of pan lining to bring out all of that detail, but once you do, it looks astounding. When it comes to the accessories, we've got the standard accessories in here. What has been done with the silhouette pack has really, taken the parts that were in the original kit and used them very smartly. Same goes with the beam rifle using the beam saber as a barrel. There's just a lot of nice subtleties to this kit. Where this kit does drop the ball, of course, is articulation, but at the end of the day, get this into a simple pose up on a stand and it will look phenomenal. How much articulation do you want out of a kit? That might be the linchpin to whether or not you want this kit or not. But I highly recommend it. If you want one of your own, I got mine through BUYEE, you can too. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, this video and every video would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. And special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and on the channel members, including Caleb Engelhart, Global Frequency Studios, Go Little Rockstar, Gunpla UK Limited, Joe, Kill Me Inc., Lauren Seahack, RG59061, and Van Fawn.